Get ready for the nerd out. Better put specs on. Better break necks on. I caught handsome checks for my expansion sets. They call me. I can feel your anger. It gives you focus.
What's going on, comic fam? It's your boy, the bearded comic bro, and we are back for episode 3 of my MCU rankings. We are in the top 10-ish. We're starting with 11. I'm going to give you 11 through 6. And then we're going to end episode 4 with my top 5 MCU movies. So, if you have not watched the first 2 episodes, what are you doing? Watch the other episodes, okay? Do it. Stop this video, watch them. Then come back, and let's talk 11 through 6. So, let's jump right into the list. At number 11 is Spider-Man Homecoming. Now, I remember going into this movie hesitant, going, why are we doing another Spider-Man movie? And I feel like the producers knew what they were doing from that, because I feel like if we got another origin story, we were all going to go insane. And they realized that, and they said, boom, we're going to go kind of right into the meat of the story. It's still origin-esque, but you don't need to know about how he got his powers. You don't need, we know the story, right? It's just like you don't need to know how Batman's parents were killed every single movie. If you haven't known by now, you don't need to know. You shouldn't be watching Batman movies. Same thing with this Spider-Man. So I was happy that they did that. I think the biggest knock with a lot of the Marvel movies, we talked about it a little bit in the other videos, is their villains. Their villains always feel flat. They don't really resonate, I think, with the audience as well. But Marvel knocked it out of the park, in my opinion, with Michael Keaton. Holy buckets. Michael Keaton, I think they developed him great. You understood where he was coming from. You felt for him. You knew kind of how he became I liked how they took the Vulture character and were able to implement that into the MCU and kind of ground it a little bit more. And I think Michael Keaton is just a great actor. You see that in a lot of his movies, and so when they brought him on to be the villain, I was excited, but I tried to taper my expectations a little bit, but I thought he did a great job, and I thought he helped carry this movie. And again, my knock with Far From Home, a little bit too much of the Tony Stark, Spider-Man being little Iron Man, little Tony Stark. I want Spider-Man to be just Spider-Man on his own. I want him to have his shine, like his own spotlight, where he can benefit from Tony Stark, but he doesn't need him to be Spider-Man, if that makes sense. So I'm excited for when they do another Spider-Man movie. I think they're going to break away from the relationship with Spider-Man and Iron Man and Peter Parker and Tony Stark a little bit more, which I think it just needs that now moving forward. So that's number 11. We are now in the top 10 list. So at number 10 on my list is Guardians of the Galaxy number 2. Again, I thought this was going to be lower on my list. There are definitely elements of it where I'm like, I don't like that. But the chemistry that James Gunn has developed with the cast from the first one to now is just great. We hop right in. We know where the characters are, where they've been. And the relationship between Rocket and Groot and Star-Lord and they're all really good. I think my biggest knock with, and it probably would have had Guardians of the Galaxy 2 higher up. I felt like in the second one, they just started to get Drax to be a little too goofy for me. Again, a little bit. Not the end of the world, but I felt like they took his goofiness of episode 1. Are we talking Star Wars here? Of the first Guardians. Where he's kind of like the aloof, and they almost like expanded on it too much, in my opinion. Volume 2. But Guardians of the Galaxy, you're going to get a fun, entertaining rewatchable movie, even if there are elements of the movie that you don't like. Maybe you weren't a fan of what they did with Kurt Russell's character and the dynamics between him and Star-Lord. But I think when you see Guardians of the Galaxy, you know you're going to be entertained throughout the whole movie because they've established that that's what it does. So that is number 10 on my list. At number 9 is Black Panther. I like this movie a lot. And I think it's solely because of Michael B. Jordan. I think he's fantastic as an actor. And I think this is showing you that Marvel is starting to understand the process. Spider-Man Homecoming, we see this with this. I didn't like Far From Home, but I still felt Mysterio was a good villain. And I think Black Panther, Michael B. Jordan's character, Killmonger, really was a good villain. You understood where he was coming from. You felt for him. I think my only beef on the movie is he's not they got rid of him a little too soon. Because I want to see more of that dynamics. I think Michael B. Jordan is just so great. I think it was a really cool movie to see a part of MCU that, we didn't get to see. We didn't really get to explore the world of Wakanda. And the Marvel universe is so vast. Guardians of the Galaxy took us that we can see Marvel movies in space. And, Thor does it a little bit with Asgard, but Marvel, Guardians of the Galaxy takes you in space. But Wakanda, you really get to see it's a culturally different movie. You have different, you get to see the technology that is so integral into the movie that is just really impactful, I think, to the entire MCU. And it was cool to see kind of that origin story. Again, Black Panther was a character I was not familiar with really too much before the MCU. And after watching Civil War and then, watching Black Panther is a character that I started to dig into more because of that. And I think that's, no matter what your stance is on these movies, I think that's what's so great is these Marvel movies are introducing people to comic book characters they might not be familiar with, and that might be hopefully getting some people into comics that they haven't read before. I didn't read a lot of Black Panther. I'm digging into some of that a little bit more now because of that. I hadn't read a lot of Thor because of that, but then I went through and I'm reading the Jason Aaron run of Thor. So I think that's a great thing about these movies. So that is number 9 on the list. Number 8 on the list for me is Captain America Winter Soldier. Man, this was what I wanted from a Captain America movie. I know I said in the first Avengers, it was lower on my list because it's period. And I said I knew going into it was going to be lower on my list. And as soon as they would take Captain America and place him in the modern world, I'd be like, yes, this is what I want. And they did. And I think it's just is really great. Kept the chemistry that you start to see with him and Scarlett Johansson a little bit really was good in the movie. Really starting Winter Soldier really was setting the stage for what they were going to do with the rest of the MCU with SHIELD kind of breaking down and stuff like that. And I just thought it was one of those movies that I can rewatch over and over again and really enjoy. And honestly, most of these movies from episode 3 of mine, so 17 on, episode 2, I guess. So 17 on are really ones that I love and I'll rewatch and enjoy a lot. So Captain America, Winter Soldier, number 8. Number 7, we've talked about it already a little bit. It is Guardians of the Galaxy. So I'm not going to spend too much time on this. But I remember this Guardians of the Galaxy is one of those, okay. And this was in my head. I'm like, this is going to be the first Marvel movie that kind of just flops. I'm like, they're not going to, it seems silly. It seems off. And when they hit gold with Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm like, okay, Marvel knows what they're doing. And I'm here for this ride that they're taking me on. So Guardians of the Galaxy, again, I think they got the right casting. They got the right mesh of story, which really works out really well. And it just is it takes us really into that you can have Marvel into this kind of space sci-fi world, a little bit more outside of the superhero realm, if you will. And I thought that was a really cool interpretation of how they did. So let's hop into the last movie on my list here for episode 3. We're talking Thor Ragnarok. And I feel like you're either a fan of what they did with Thor Ragnarok or you're not. Obviously, the first 2 Thor movies were in my bottom 6. So I wasn't the biggest fan of Thor going into stuff. Thor Ragnarok was actually the only Marvel movie I didn't see in theaters. I was just so with Thor. Hadn't done it for me. The movies hadn't done it for me. It was just in the time of having a kid, so we had to really pick our chances of going to the movies, and I was just like, I don't care. I'll catch it on DVD. And one of my bigger regrets, because it's one of my favorite Marvel movies, not getting to experience it in all its glory on the big screen. It saddens me still to this day, but I think it just is a fun because they really do a character switch. So if you were digging Thor before, you probably don't like what they did with Ragnarok. I know some people think they went a little too far. I thought it was perfect. I thought this is what they needed to do from the get-go more often with the character of Thor. I felt like it would have been higher on my list if I don't know. I was going to even say like a knock on the villain, but she wasn't even that bad of a villain. It just is such an expansive story that it was something I was excited for. And I thought they did a really good job. I liked what they did with Thor and Hulk, and Jeff Goldblum coming into it steals the show. Man, I love him in this. So Thor Ragnarok was just a blast and was tons of fun. So that is my rankings 11 through 6. We had Spider-Man Homecoming, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Black Panther, Captain America Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, and then Thor Ragnarok. So that ends episode 3. We are now at the top 5. So you know what they're going to be. Now you just got to figure out what's the ranking gonna be for the movies. So make sure you guys tune in. Watch for when I drop episode 4. Let me know in the comments, what are your guys' top 10 favorite movies? What do you think my ranking is going to be for my top 5? And as always, I hope you can find some time to curl up, grab a book, and nerd out. Peace.